I was thinking about E.T. recently.
Yeah.
Foreigners hate peanut butter. And how does Elliot lure E.T. back to his house? Notoriously through Reese's Pieces. So this is how he's supposed to get the alien to follow him back to his house, by giving him peanut butter?
Why do foreigners hate peanut butter?
They just do.
Where do you get this from?
That's true. Foreigners, speak up.
I think you're making a broad generalization.
I'm not making a broad generalization. Peanut butter and root beer, foreigners do not get.
E.T.'s not a human, though. E.T. is a
He's
creature.
a non-American. How the movie should have ended was he tries one, he's like, oh, and he like goes running off into the forest and gets eaten by a coyote, and then the alien ship comes back and they go to war with the planet Earth because of peanut butter.
That's a terrible idea.
I know it's
You're
terrible.
a terrible person.
I've got a bunch of movies that I've never seen before. You don't know what they are. Every episode, I'm going to spring one on you. We'll watch it and talk about it. Welcome to the basement.
As I said last week, the movie we're going to watch tonight was chosen by someone who we both know. That is not you or I. He is the co-creator of Chad Vader and Beer and Board Games. He's Aaron Yanda.
Hello, everybody.
Can he be trusted? He's never seen Reservoir Dogs or The Godfather.
I know, he's got problems.
He's got huge problems.
Aaron was given access to my 50 movie master list, and he chose the movie we're watching tonight.
I really wanted to re-experience the movie or be reminded of what it's about. I don't really want to re-watch it again, so I figured if I made Craig and Matt watch it for me and do their thing, then I could sort of remember what it was about.
And he got to pick a movie of his own to put on the list. This movie, I have to admit, I have seen part of it, possibly as much as a third of it in college, but I fell asleep while watching it. I want to say that I had been up all the previous night studying for an exam, but more than likely I was up all night writing a poem.
That's good to know.
Needless to say, I had terrible grades in college and no dates. But I do regret falling asleep to this movie, even though it is appropriate considering the subject matter.
Andy Warhol sleep?
Craig, I hope you got your hanky with you, because you might just shed a tear. This movie stars your own personal fallen hero, River Phoenix. Won't you take a road trip with me to My Own Private Idaho?
Oh, this is one of my favorite movies.
That's why when it was revealed, you went,
Oh, it's like I'm internal hemorrhaging. I'm so happy.
Hope you enjoy their watching it. Okay.
Released in 1991, the screenplay... The screenplay for MOPI was actually written by Van Sant in the 1970s, and he discarded it because he was unsatisfied with it. He developed the story over the years, and after the success of his 1989 film Drugstore Cowboy, he was able to secure a $2.5 million budget from New Line Cinema and convince Keanu Reeves to star in the picture. River Phoenix's agent refused to even show him the script, so Keanu delivered it to him via motorcycle.
That's straight out of this movie.
After reading it, Phoenix agreed to star as well.
This movie is a trip.
Each episode, I give Craig a gift. It's to show my appreciation of him, and in the words of Peter Cook in Bedazzled,
it's a very magnanimous gesture.
The gifts always have some sort of thematic connection to the film. Some of the gifts are cool, some of them are not. I'm afraid tonight's gift is not. I'm sorry.
It's a potato.
Your Own Private Idaho potato. Care to do some hitchhiking with us? Well, thumb a ride on over to the old leather couch to watch Gus Van Sant's My Own Private Idaho. This soundtrack courtesy of Raising Arizona.
Mike Waters is standing on the side of the road in Idaho. Dance this mess around. He's waiting for someone to come by and pick him up, and he seems to remember being here before.
He falls asleep. He's narcoleptic. Sleep this mess around.
He passes out and wakes up in Seattle.
He's also a male hustler. We see a few different encounters with his various Johns. Come on, it took those Amish people all day to build that. Sometimes there's oral sex, sometimes merely Dutch boy costumes.
Just a little Dutch boy, harder.
He's very turned on by fresh scrubbing.
Later we meet Scott, Mike's friend and fellow hustler.
Find the fish. Fishy, 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 fish.
You can't fool me. This is not the middle of the film.
No, it's not.
There's a kind of creepy German named Hans who tries to pick Mike up.
I'm not Klaus Kinski, if you're worried about that.
Oh, well, let's go then. That's fine. Turns out Scott is going to inherit a fortune when he turns 21, which is in just 1 week.
My mother and father will be surprised at the incredible change.
I'll know Kung Fu. Mikey and Scott hitch a ride to Portland, where they meet up with Bob.
And things get Shakespearean.
We have heard the chimes at midnight.
A portly ne'er-do-well
Stealing is my vocation, Scott.
who comes up with a scheme to rob some rock promoters.
I have a joke I want to play. A joke I can't pull off alone.
They're going to rob Bob as soon as Bob steals the money.
Up against the wall, you silly scumbag.
The thieves scatter!
They return to Bob's hangout.
This bike was caught with much ease, Mike.
And the reward for the joke that we played last night will be the unbelievably huge lies that Bob will come up with now.
They're a much more articulate Bill and Ted.
Yes.
What new trick do you have for us now, Bob?
Mike and Scott then go to Idaho to visit Mike's brother. Scott and Mikey have a heart-to-heart campfire chat where Mike professes his love for Scott. But Scott says
The two guys can't love each other.
And they head back to Mike's childhood home, where they hang out with Richard, Mike's older brother.
they find a postcard from Mike's mom
The family tree in Snake River. If you're ever out this way, look me up, love mom.
So they go to Snake River to see if she's there. Turns out she's not. She moved to Italy.
There was a Sharon who worked here about a year ago, but she's
Gus Van Sant.
Oh, yeah.
Paging Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman. But they do find Hans. He's very happy to meet two particularly handsome boys on the road.
I'm extremely excited.
I just got in. Could you please wait your turn?
But first, a song.
Sitting on the bullets. Thinking of power.
I would love it if this was Udo Kier's real-life band.
Being in space.
And then there's three-way sex. They sell the motorcycle to Hans and fly to Rome. You're living in your own private Rome.
Buona fortuna! They track her down to a farmhouse. Finally, Mike's gonna find his mom.
They find out from Carmela.
Your mama isn't here. She go back to America, but she taught me how to speak the English.
She left a long time ago.
I'm Italian. I can make fun of my own people.
Scott and Carmela have sex, and they fall in love.
Suddenly, our young narcoleptic friend can't quite fall asleep. He's got horrible insomnia, and all he's doing is listening to lovemaking by the man he loves and the woman that the man he loves.
Scott informs Mike
I'm gonna take a little time off.
and be with his new lover. Mike, brokenhearted, returns to Portland.
Wake up. We are in the Portland airport.
Wow.
Hey, that's Keanu's line. And his old life. He sees Scott get out of a limousine, obviously has inherited his fortune. Bob goes into the restaurant, they make a scene.
Scotty, my own true friend.
You're going to repay me for all the kindnesses I've done to you.
I don't know you, old man. Please leave me alone.
Bob dies.
God?
Bob's funeral coincidentally takes place a very short distance from the very stiff and formal funeral of Scott's father. Funerals don't have enough mosh pits.
No, they don't.
Mike ends up back on that same Idaho freeway.
A road he keeps going back to. A road he can't escape from.
Falls asleep. He's picked up by someone in a car, and they drive off. Have a nice day. I've been tasting roads my whole life. This road will never end. Craig, you've been on this road before. You say you've seen this movie 3 times.
Now
and
4.
This would be 4. What can you take away from it now that you didn't see on your previous 3 viewings?
Every time I watch the movie, Keanu becomes a better actor. I used to just think everything is just that sandwiches moment.
Sandwiches.
It's lines like that which make people think that Keanu Reeves can't act. Sandwiches. But he has a lot of moments where he's just like kind and caring, and then he has to just turn around and be completely selfish at the next moment.
Don't come near me.
Also, I noticed a salmon motif this time.
Those salmon pictures appeared at the beginning and the end of the film. What do you think that symbolizes?
Salmon, of course, are the fish that go down the river out to the sea, and then they spawn back up to breed, and then they die.
There's an obvious parallel to Mike, who keeps returning back to Idaho.
That one road that we keep going back to, that Mike is stranded on, both literally and figuratively. Roads are streams for humans, I guess.
Right.
And if you look at his jacket, it's salmon-colored. There's a big salmon-colored fish in the hotel room. There's a salmon-colored hatchback in the distance and the farm scene.
So Van Sant, like David Lynch and like M. Night Shyamalan, really uses color as symbolism. Going beyond just merely telling a story and providing a unique aesthetic experience.
And this is entirely unique. Whenever Bob gets anywhere near the camera, everyone talks Shakespearean.
What do you think that's all about?
For starters, Scott's story is the story of Prince Hal and the Henry IV plays, with Bob being Falstaff, with his father being King Henry IV, Scott being Prince Hal. There's a couple of people flee, and that ugly guy who shows up at the end, they combine into being Bardolph. So since they're doing a retelling of Shakespeare, it is just basically Shakespeare in Portland.
When you see really kind of oddball stylistic flourishes, a lot of times it can really ring false. This movie's all about that type of thing. It's all about taking you out of the story and pointing at some larger truth. Every time Van Sant kind of steps out on a ledge, it really works. Just those title screens. I mean, they're just really fun to look at. They're interesting to look at, and they work. Yeah. I don't know why they work.
There's so much of this movie that still works, and yet there's so much of it that's lost. Portland isn't a rundown city at all anymore.
Right.
Yet it still seems like a movie that's could have been done today.
For what I remember, the tone of this movie is really grim and gritty, and I actually don't remember the ending, but I'm assuming it was very depressing.
Is this movie grim and gritty, as Aaron Yanda calls it? There's not a lot of optimism in this movie.
No.
Is there any?
You can't even point to the idea of motherhood as a positive thing. And that's generally the one thing that everyone can agree, that a good mother is a good mother. And that's not even there in the movie.
It's interesting that he keeps returning to where he was born, but he never is able to go home.
Yeah.
Which is that's actually what he's searching for. And he goes all the way around the world to try and find it. But he can't find it.
When he goes home, his brother doesn't live in the house. His brother lives in a trailer outside.
Right.
What's up with that?
I say that I regret falling asleep to this movie the first time I watched it, and now I no longer regret it, because I was able to experience it now. There was so much of it that I'm surprised that I remembered really vividly. And so that colored the experience too. So I got to experience this movie in a totally unique way.
It's beautiful and it's sad, but sometimes the most beautiful things are the saddest things.
That was quite a time we had watching My Own Private Idaho. Be sure to visit welcometothebasementshow.com. You can see all the various little treasures there, and you can make a donation to the show at the PayPal button. No donation is too small. Our recent donors are Linda, Ashley, Zach, Thomas, and Nathan. Thanks, homies! GREC562. I watched Heathers, and I enjoyed it a lot. Thanks for recommending it. What's your damage, GREC?
I do not patronize bunny rabbits.
I love my dead gay son. And lastly, Robster881. The Putney Swope Panic needs to have an entry on TV tropes. This is a term that I used when describing the viewing experience of Tough Guys Don't Dance, a movie that will live in infamy in the annals of Welcome to the Basement.
Yes.
And perhaps an official definition of the Putney Swope Panic is in order. Ahem. The brief, desperate vertigo one feels when watching an incoherent, obtuse, or overly complicated film, trying to piece together its various plot points, dangling storylines, and strange subtexts, while realizing that this is probably impossible. Followed immediately by the Putney Swope surrender and the Putney Swope acceptance. And now, it's time for...
Seen it.
Ooh, I've got some fun here.
Oh, what's all this?
It's time once again for another edition of Seen It, Own It. These are movies that not only have I seen, I've been moved to purchase them from a reputable retailer.
Not stealing it like you used to when you're a youth?
When I was a young male hustler, I stole DVDs all the time before they existed. Mike Cronus Love it if you tried White Heat with James Cagney. The advanced police work at the time is worth the effort. Own It.
Top of the world, ma.
Probably the role that Jimmy Cagney is most well known for, even though he disliked his gangster roles. This movie, I don't love it, and I don't know why.
I have only seen bits and pieces of it, and I think the problem is that it doesn't really seem realistic. Like, this is a prison built in Hollywood.
It does seem a little bit squeaky clean, and it deals with some very grim subjects. Cody's mental illness, his really weird relationship with his mother, and they just gloss over it because of the time period. Maybe this movie is ripe for a remake. I have to say, a more modern film treatment of this story would probably better suit it, and they'd be able to tackle those issues in a more frank and modern way. And I would love to see the Cody Jarrett role given to a modern actor who has that kind of crazy energy, like a Joaquin Phoenix or
Michael Shannon.
Anything's better with Michael Shannon.
That's right.
This is Dr. Cataclysm. Have you ever watched one of my favorite films, The Adventures of Baron Munchausen? Probably so, since you love Terry Gilliam's Brazil so much. I have seen Baron Munchausen, and I have it on Blu-ray.
I do love the movie. Every frame of that movie is original.
I saw this in the theater, and I was blown away, not only by Uma Thurman's nudity. It really just transports you to this amazing world, like all of Terry Gilliam's movies do. And it's just a world you never want to leave.
Yep.
Speaking of Terry Gilliam, John Johnson. Hey guys, you should review Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Bam!
You have seen it, and you own it.
Yeah, check it out. The bats fly in on the cover.
That's a movie I've seen 3 times, all 3 times, on the big screen.
Terry Gilliam movies are your best buys as far as I'm concerned, because you literally can watch them 10, 20 times.
And there's always something new to find.
Anime Louver 2597. Ever since I can remember, my mom would watch Aliens. She still watches it at least once every week, and now I have the whole movie memorized against my will. Frowny face. I don't know why you're frowning. Your mom is like the coolest mom in the world. Top 5 action movies of all time.
It's relentlessly exciting. Really what it all comes down to. It's about motherhood.
Sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is there an alien behind me?
Name of the Rose. Hey, we know them.
Yeah.
Fun show. 24-hour party people was interesting. I certainly thought so.
Interesting enough that you bought it?
Got that tongue there with the thing and
the stud
24-hour party people. This was my first exposure to the filmmaking of Michael Winterbottom. Probably the first time I saw Steve Coogan.
That movie is Steve Coogan's Hamlet. On occasion, there is like a thesis performance that an actor gives.
Yeah.
And that's basically all of his characters go to that.
Running 05. You've probably seen this, but I recently saw Duck Soup and loved it. Well, then you would love this big old box set. This is all 5 of the Marx Brothers Paramount Pictures. I can't get enough of this. Every once in a while I'll get a hankering to watch one of these, and when I do, I gotta watch all 5 of them. The humor is just as contemporary as it ever was. This is the building blocks of cinema comedy right here.
He gets so mad because he can't read.
That's Seen It, and that's our show. We want to thank you for joining us. Go to welcometothebasementshow.com. Make a donation with the PayPal button if you choose. I had a lot of fun having some of our friends pick the movies. I wanted to do it more, but I just planned out the rest of the year. We've got too many great movies to watch. On behalf of Craig Johnson, my co-host, and myself, good night.
Good night. Oh, not again. Heath. Good nights remind him of his mother.
I always prefer torso to honcho.
Nah, I'm a butch man myself.
It's when you start doing things for free that you start to grow wings.
Noted, magazine.
How does he get away with having a head of hair like a Wishnick troll and no one else can do that?
Sandwiches.